I want to tell you something. I want to tell you something funny that you may not know. And Anandita, I was going to tell you this also because it relates to chanting while listening to music. So in Mayapur, when I first went to Mayapur, it was 1975. And at the entrance to Mayapur, I don't know if you know this, at the main entrance, there's a gate. You can actually walk up in that gate and sit inside. There's like a room inside. Did you know that? And inside that room, there was a man playing Shania and a man playing tabla. And then I believe it was put over a sound system. And Prabhupada said that Shania and that tabla created an auspicious atmosphere. And that it was auspicious to chant to that music. Because normally we think, you would just chant, you wouldn't have music. And Prabhupada said, this creates an auspicious atmosphere. So Gormani was telling me that some devotees, when we had the Shania, and when they heard it, they didn't like it. To put it in a colloquial American expression, it weirded them out. But that's kind of funny because it's considered auspicious. You know the Shania sound. You know the Shania sound? It's like how would you describe it? Like a miniature saxophone? Not exactly. A clarinet that never grew up? Like a clarinet at the age of 5 or something? I'm just going to hold on a second. We're going to have a little fun here. If I can. Yeah, so you can hear it. I'm going to see if I can share it. Well, I could probably share it through my microphone. Yeah, so I was right. It's a 5-year-old clarinet. His voice never got deep. So that was played. And there, somewhere on the internet, you might find a Shania, Prabhupada chanting with Shania background. But in our temples, for many years during japa, we would play this. Some devotee went there and recorded those people in Mayapur playing. And that recording went around ISKCON. And then we would put that on in the morning. Instead of Prabhupada chanting, we would just put that on and we chant to it. Remind us of Mayapur, and it was auspicious. So if you like to chant to music, that's your big chance. And I think probably any Shania recording like the one I just found on YouTube, you could play and chant to that. So for all of those who got weirded out by the Shania music, like, what's this? Why are we chanting to this? Now you know the background story. It also, it also goes along with the Bhagavad Gita verse of the modes of nature, because everything, is backwards. So if you're in goodness, you don't like ignorance, but if you're in ignorance, you don't like goodness. And so due to our upbringing, sometimes we don't like things that are sattvic and we don't even know they're sattvic. And we like things that are tamasic and we may not realize it because we're used to it. So that might be an example. Maybe, I don't know. Okay. Hare Krishna. So, my dear devotees, I have to tell you something that if you don't come to level 2 self-care, I was going to say 50% of your life is wasted, but I've raised it to about 99%. So I've been working on it like all day, every spare moment. I don't know when I started my spare moments, but as soon as I had spare moments, I've been working on it. And definitely all day Friday, all day Saturday, all day Sunday. And this morning from 3:15 till 8:30, I worked on it. And what's happening is I worked on all of this like months and months ago, maybe a year ago, and I'm gathering everything, all the things I didn't teach, all the exercises I didn't give, all the affirmations you never got. We now have like 50 more affirmations you never heard about self-acceptance, self-compassion, meditations. We have like all this. And we have enough exercises to last for level 2 and 3 and maybe 4. And all I can say is it's going to be really good and you don't want to miss it. And in fact, I'm going to send a letter out to all of you, all of my disciples, just so they understand. Let me tell you the realization I had, just so you know. I just finished this weekend. We did China Friday morning, Saturday morning, Sunday morning. We did a course exclusively for Chinese devotees. And one of the things that I became aware of, which is true for many of us, and I think maybe more true in Asian cultures, is that the parents really, really need their children to be perfect, or maybe more than perfect. And, you know, the Indians are shaking their head, but I think the Chinese may have it worse than you. And often when your parents want you to be better, you take it like, well, there's something wrong with me because they're asking me to be better. And it may not be their intention, but that's how it's taken. So I was seeing how a lot of devotees are in that situation. A lot of people are in that situation where they feel like, you know, there's something's wrong with them, or they're not good enough, or something. And one devotee told me, said, you know, I can't accept Krishna's love because I've been conditioned to not like be happy. Like being happy is like, it's, you know, you got to suffer, you know, being happy is like, it's not good. And so it's hard for me to even think that Krishna would give me something good. And I don't know if you ever thought of this, but have you ever thought that I'm so bad I deserve to suffer, and Krishna's probably going to put me on an airplane that crashes or something because I'm so bad. You know? So it's, so I was looking at this and the sharing, and I don't think that sharing in the Chinese is unique, but it did indicate to me that their parents are really pushing them, because a lot of them said, you know, I don't really feel like good enough, or however you want to put it. Maybe not a lot, but some. And it made me think that, and as we know, when you come to Krishna consciousness, you can think that way also. If you already think that way, then you can easily think that way as well, because it's so difficult to be pure. Or we're so impure, and purity is such a high thing that we can feel bad about not being pure, or not deserving of being pure. And so when I was giving the course, I felt like one of the things that I think we need to do for ourselves and in our movement in general is clean that up. That's it's detrimental to our spiritual advancement. It's too negative. It's not humility. It's self-denigration and the tamagun. It's tamasic. And so I got very excited thinking that one of the things this self-care course can do potentially is turn that around. And if you know what it's like if someone loves you, I mean, it's an amazing feeling, isn't it? Now meditate on, and maybe you don't believe this, but I'll just ask you to believe it for the next 60 seconds, all right? Krishna actually loves you. I mean, that's like amazing, you know, like think, somebody loves me. You know, just the girl down the street loves me, I feel good. What about, you know, my mother stops yelling at me for a day, you know, I feel good. What about God loves me? Wow, that's like, it's like amazing. God loves me is like, just meditate on that he actually loves you. It's incredible. So if we can get ourselves to buy into that and to expect Krishna's mercy, always expect it rather than expecting, maybe this plane will crash, I deserve it, I'm such a bad person. Expecting I'll never be Krishna conscious, Krishna. And even if I went back to Godhead, they'd probably kick me out because Krishna would take one look at me and say, how'd you get up here? I don't like you. So, we don't want to live that way. That's all materially conditioned thinking. We don't want to live like that. Right? So I was just feeling like if you have proper self-care, it can like cleanse so much negativity out of you. And give you so much positivity. It can make the movement much more positive. So sometimes when I put this ad up for self-care, devotees will say, why is he teaching self-care? Prabhupada never said anything about self-care. So I was talking with my godbrother like that, and he said, like, what is wrong with our movement that you're trying to help people and people are trying to fault you? I said, it's something's wrong. We need to create more positivity, don't we? Now, I found out something from this godbrother. He said that in the Ayurveda, there's a word called pragya aparad, which is an interesting word. Pragya means intelligence, and aparad, of course, means offense. So pragya aparad means an offense to your intelligence. I say, what is an offense to my intelligence? When you know what you should do, like your intelligence is telling you what you should do and you don't do it, that's an offense to your intelligence. It's a lack of respect to your intelligence. So it's a lack of self-respect. And so my godbrother said, he said, well, people think Prabhupada didn't teach self-care because he didn't use those words. You could say those are modern words. He didn't use self-care. He said, but pragya aparad is another way of saying self-care in a reverse way. It's that you're offending your intelligence. And so now you're acting against your own interest, which is the opposite of self-care. So I thought that was interesting. Anyway, I'm just explaining what I've been going through the last few days in preparation. And I came up with 20 affirmations of self-compassion. And after that, I came up with 37 more of self-acceptance and self-compassion. And then after that, I went through my whole course because I have another level you haven't taken. So I went through all of the course. And then I came up with meditations, and it came out to 35 meditations on what was taught in the course, which kind of encapsulates. Plus, so we have 20 self-care affirmations. We have 20 compassion affirmations. We have 37 compassion self-acceptance affirmations. We have 35 general meditations, and we have 20 spiritual self affirmations. And I'm reading all these and I'm thinking, Krishna consciousness is so beautiful. If we adopted these moods of self-care and self-compassion, we would be like the most beautiful people. We would have the most beautiful lives, and we would have the most beautiful movement. So I'm like really excited. I think I'm like, feel like Martin Luther King or something. Like I'm in a reform ISKCON, of course, I know. It's not going to happen. Maybe after I die 100 years later, someone will find, dust off. What's this? Self-care affirmations. They find all the material, after the world blows up, and, but that somehow remained in my safe. It didn't get blown up. And I go, this is really good. So I'm excited. I'm saying all this just because I'm excited. And I think this is going to, level 1 was just like fertilizing the ground and planting the seeds. This is going to take it to a new level. But I want to address something because it's important, and this is being recorded, so it'll be there for posterity. The problem, if you or anyone has a problem with self-care, even after understanding the importance, it's because of our programming. Like I'm saying, we've been programmed to feel we're not good enough, or not worthy of Krishna's love, or not worthy of being happy or successful. It's unfortunate, but many of us have that program. programming. And some of us have it a little bit, some of us have it more. Some fortunately don't have it or don't have, or don't, and some of us have it and we don't know we have it, which is probably the worst. So that programming, you won't find that programming within shastra, but the paradox is we can read shastra and get programmed that way. Should I say that again, Abhinav? You look confused. Okay, we did an exercise. Maybe we'll do this in level 2. It's called Weaponizing Shastra. Have you read anything in Shastra that made you feel guilty or undeserving or whatever? Like, what's the use of going on? I'm so bad. You know? Shastra is not meant to make you feel that way. But because of our condition, those who have a guilty conscience or whatever the conditioning is, we can read Shastra. And the Shastra, which is meant to cause the blossoming of bhakti and love and compassion and all these good qualities, can cause negativity if we're not careful. Because, you know, it's like the seeds being planted in toxic soil or something, and all of a sudden the peach tree is poisonous. What happened? Peaches aren't poisonous. Well, it was planted in soil with poison. So you get this, you know, shastra planted in and it lands in a heart which has beliefs, negative beliefs, and then you allow the shastra to trigger those beliefs. You know, like when someone has trauma and then something happens and it's like a whole explosion and you're like, what happened? I just said, you know, actually, I didn't say anything. You're like, what happened? Why is there an explosion? It's because the soil is dirty. And anything would create an explosion. So that's concerning. And we don't want some kind of negative material conditioning to have a negative effect on our spiritual life, because our spiritual life's too important, right? You know, why didn't you go back to God? Well, it was my mother's fault. You know, she messed me up. You know, we don't want that to be the problem, right? And although that sounds very, well, let's just say it sounds stupid, but it happens, and it is happening. So Krishna loves you. Krishna wants you back to Godhead, and your worthiness of his love has nothing to do with you being worthy. It's because he wants to give it to you, and so you accept it, and you're joyful that he's given it to you. And now you want to come closer to Krishna, so you want to surround your life with things which will uplift you and bring you closer to Krishna. And that belief has to be central within all of our hearts. And if it's not, we'll never be able to properly care for ourselves, because we'll always feel like, no, it's okay that I'm not doing well in bhakti, because after all, I don't really deserve it anyway. And as I said, if I go back to Godhead, they'll probably kick me out. Maybe they'll let me in, but when they find out what I'm really like, they'll probably kick me out. And I go, who let you in here? Did you go in the back door? Did you pay? You have a ticket? Don't worry, if you get in, you can't fall down again, although some people say that. But once you get there, you're good. But some people may question, who let this bum in? You. No, they won't. Don't worry, they won't. But we could think like that, right? Yeah. So when I see this kind of thinking, I think this is really unfortunate what the material world can do to us. And then we come and we get this seed of bhakti. We don't want to, and then we plant it in toxic soil. Then the seed becomes poisonous. Oh, what could be worse than that, right? A poison, you know, like you planted a peach tree. I had a peach for breakfast. So I'm talking about peaches. You planted a peach tree, and the peach is poisonous. Oh, I never seen a poisonous peach tree. You planted Bhagavad Gita and it comes out like making you unhappy. How did that happen? Or negative or whatever. So this is a really important point to consider, don't you think? Something positive can create negativity if we're negative inside ourselves. So I want to say something I said before, but it's really important. Please don't ever feel guilty about being in ecstasy. Ecstasy is what Prabhupada wants for you. Ecstasy is what Prabhupada came to give you. He wants you to be happy in Krishna consciousness. There's nothing that makes Prabhupada happier than you being happy in Krishna consciousness. If you make a mistake, Prabhupada wants you to correct the mistake. He doesn't want you to descend to the mode of ignorance and lament and never get out of bed. No, he wants you to correct it, guilt-free, correct it. You know, like these guilt-free sweets, like with stevia, and like all natural ingredients. Let's say it's guilt-free. It tastes like it's really bad for you, but there's nothing in it that's bad. So you don't have to be guilty. When you just eat it, it's healthy, even though it tastes like it's going to kill you. It tastes so good, you think this is so bad for me. So guilt-free, we have to do guilt-free bhakti. You make a mistake, okay, correct it. No problem. No problem at all. It's like whatever, And then I made this other point last class because it was so exciting, and I want to make it again. And I know for myself that I don't remember everything. I don't even remember everything that I teach, and that sounds weird. So if I don't remember everything I teach, you probably don't either. Have you listened to a recording of a class you've been to and realized, did he say that in the class? I didn't hear that. And you're like, I can't believe something's wrong with my brain. I better go to the doctor. I can't believe he said that. I was, what to speak if you were there in the class personally. So I'm going to say this again, because I think this is one of the most beautiful things in Krishna consciousness, one of the most beautiful things we can hear. And Krishna does not look at the result, he looks at the effort. So I can be like whatever, but Krishna is looking at that I'm trying. And I always thought this, when I was a young devotee, I always thought, there's devotees who are very advanced, and it seems like for them, being Krishna conscious is really easy. I had God brothers, it's just like every day, 3 o'clock, ding! They're like basketball players. 3 o'clock, they're on the ceiling. Like, how do you do that? They're just like, soon as the alarm goes off, there's no nanosecond. They're up. They're just ding, boom. I'm like, how do you do that? It's 3 a.m. We went to bed at 10 o'clock. Like, I'm like trying to open my eyelids, takes 2 hands to open them up, and then they immediately close when I go to this one. And how did you? So I'm looking at him and I'm thinking, like, he's got it easy, no problem, right? No problem. And then I would see other devotees who had it much worse than I had it. And I'd look at them and I'd think, Krishna must really appreciate that you're still a devotee, because I know how hard it is for you. And sometimes I would feel like, I think you're a better devotee than the better devotee, because it looks like you're trying a lot harder than they are. They're just kind of cruising, they're just like, they were devotees, almost pure devotees in their last life, We just got one of the Chinese ladies, she's been a devotee 1 month. She says, I'm chanting every day 32 rounds. I'm like, okay, maybe you should give the japa class. You're doing better than I am. And you've only been a devotee a month. So, but those who are struggling, Krishna's looking at and goes, yes, this devotee is having difficulty, they're struggling. That's their bhakti. Your struggle is your bhakti. Right? Write that down. Tattoo that into your brain. Your struggle is your bhakti, Krishna. So this is such a beautiful idea, because we are so conditioned by our culture to connect our self-worth with our success. Yes or yes. So if I'm not materially successful, then my self-worth is low. If I'm materially successful, then I have a right to have self-worth, right? Then my parents will be happy and accept me, and they can here's my daughter, here's my son, check them out. They've got a degree from this university. They work at this company. They make this much money. And then you can feel like, oh, I'm somebody, right? I was kind of the opposite. My generation was a little different. So I didn't really have to go through that. We would be embarrassed, actually, if we were like 22 with a corporate job in 1972. That would be like, you would be like the number one loser. Like, what? Like, your brain doesn't work. You should have dropped out. And like, what's wrong with you? So it was a different time. But so our self-worth is so much tied to who we are, what we wear, where we live, the car we drive, the shoes we wear, the job we have, what our husband and wife looks like, isn't it? It's like, that like, I would bet if I had a Mercedes Benz, a 2023, and you came to visit me and I said, could you go to the store and pick up some milk for me? I would bet that if you drove that Mercedes Benz, you'd probably be feeling a little proud that people would see you in that going, oh, it's got a Mercedes Benz. It must be somebody special, right? Admit it. Yeah, that might go through your mind, right? Well, let's up it. Probably if it was a Rolls Royce, you definitely would think like that. Who's this guy coming out of the Rolls Royce? And so, because we're conditioned, right? Where we live, what we drive, what we wear, where we work, how many zeros after one in our bank balance. So now we come to bhakti and we have that same idea. Like my value is in terms of what I produce. How many books did I sell? Temples did I open? Artis did I offer? Offerings did I cook? What did I produce? Not that we don't want to produce and not that it's not bhakti, but if we tend to evaluate our bhakti solely on that, then that means when we're not as productive, we feel less valued. We think Krishna values us less. So that's why this statement, your effort is your bhakti, your effort is your success. That's why it's so important, because that's what Krishna cares about. And how many times do I have to say this? Maybe 1 million, because we really have to get this. Krishna is not impressed by what you do because he can do it better than you. Have you ever, like, someone tries to impress you by doing something that you do like 10 times better, and they can't impress you because like they think it's good and you're like, it's not good. Have you ever been in that situation? Or like, whatever, it's knowledge or it's ability, I'm trying to impress you. Like, I'm a good cook, and they cook something, you eat it, and you're like, this is not good. But you're polite, you don't want to say anything. But they can't impress you because you're such a good cook, right? How are you going to impress Krishna? You're going to sing so beautifully that Krishna's going to go, oh my God, you sing so beautifully. I can't believe it. Or you're going to cook something. It's like, I've never tasted anything this. Radharani cooks for him. You've got, the people around Krishna can do things a lot better than we can, right? So we can't impress him. What can we impress him with? We can impress him with our bhakti, right? And bhakti, sometimes your bhakti means you're stumbling and you're falling, you're dusting yourself off, you're getting up, you're trying, you're getting out of bed even when you feel like, what's the use? That's your bhakti. So that's so important to understand. Don't you agree? Otherwise we become discouraged. Like when you see a devotee, like from my generation, who's been in Krishna consciousness for like 50 years, I know you all think, wow, you've been a devotee for 50 years. That's amazing. Don't you? Like, you never gave it up. You did it since the time you were like 19. You dropped everything. You gave up your personal desires. And despite whatever happened in ISKCON, despite Prabhupada leaving, you're still here. That's amazing, right? Not all of us think like that. because we think, yes, I have so many faults, so many, because I know my faults. Like, you don't know all my faults. Like, I know them, right? Like, I live with them. I know every thought I have. You don't know every thought I have. You don't know every mistake I made. You don't know every tendency I have. But I do. So when I look at myself, I can think, oh, look at all your faults. Look at all your material tendencies. Look at all the mistakes. I could look at that. But you're looking at, wow, you've been a devotee so many years. Despite whatever difficulties you've gone through, you're still a devotee. What if I looked at myself that way? Wouldn't that be better? Yes or yes? Because if I looked at myself that way, I would be very encouraged by the fact that I'm still here, even though maybe not running, but at least I'm standing and walking. I'm still moving. And that's very encouraging. So it's really important to see that somehow or other, I'm still moving. I'm still going forward in my bhakti. That Krishna sees. That is your devotion. That is your love. Because we say, I don't have any love for Krishna. Okay, technically we don't. But that is our love. We have to relativize what love means to make it applicable to our situation. And sometimes Prabhupada did that. He would use words like love and bhakti and pure devotion in a way that relates to us, not just to a select few who have prema. And so that's your love. Hare Krishna. So that's kind of where I've been this weekend, and I'm really excited. And so I want all of you to attend. And if you don't, I will never forgive you. But then I'll take my forgiveness course, and then I'll be okay. Hare Krishna. Yeah. This is so, I just can't emphasize how important it is for all of us to have this, to clear out any inhibitions, any negativity towards how we feel about ourselves, because that will make our path in Krishna consciousness very, very fluid, and very smooth. And we can fully embrace Krishna's love. We can appreciate the devotees. So important, right? If I don't appreciate myself, then I'm probably going to have a really hard time appreciating devotees. And if I don't appreciate myself, a lot of times I don't like to see devotees who are advancing because it makes me feel bad. What a horrible position to be in. Have you ever felt that way? This one devotee, he once told me something, and it's such a paradox. He said, sometimes I see devotees and they're not very strict, and it bothers me. Like, why aren't you strict? You're initiated, you're chanting shnik, shnik, ram, ram. What's wrong with you? Why aren't you serious? It really bothers me that they're not taking it seriously. You ever feel that way? You see somebody and they're like, come on, Prabhu, this is be serious. This is serious business, You're, doing your Instagram and chanting japa. Give me a break. Just do it right. Do your Instagram right. Stop chanting. Come on. No, do your japa right. Stop Instagram. So, and then the devotee said, but when I see devotees who are more advanced or doing well, I become envious. So I'm upset with the people below me because they're not serious. And the ones who are really serious and advancing more than me, I'm envious at them and jealous. Where is that coming from? It's coming from this lack of self-love, lack of self-acceptance. So is self-acceptance important, or is it important? Look what happens when we don't have it. It creates such a problem for our Krishna consciousness, doesn't it? Creates such a problem. And so that's why I'm excited, because I think we can, if we clear this out, we can clear out so many problems. And there's one other thing, and Annapurna, I think this relates to your situation. It's actually in one of the, I sent you those two, remember those two affirmations I sent you? That when you when you're trying to take care of yourself, then you want to make sure that you only allow positive things in your life, right? And if there are negative things, you just close the door on them. Oh, that's negative. We'll just close the door and we'll lock it. We're not letting that in. Well, that's positive. Let it open. And we were saying, if we're really damaged, then I kind of open the negative because we think, yeah, I deserve it, and close the positive, I don't deserve it. Or somehow or other, we allow ourselves to become attracted to negative things because negative things are attractive in their own perverted way. Like Donald Trump is so attractive. And it's like, I can't figure out why he's so attractive to people. And the more cases against him, the more popular he becomes. It's like negativity becomes an attraction. It's very interesting to watch. It's not a judgment. It's just that, one would think, okay, there are court cases, maybe it's all false, but, where there's smoke, there's fire, and, it's not one court case, it's multiple. And you would think people would say, I don't think this is really the right man for president, but it's increasing his popularity. So sometimes negative things become attractive. And so some devotees are very attracted to negative, but the negative is harmful. So someone who is self-caring, when there's negative, they're like by default accustomed to shut the door on it. It's like, so they'll say, how do you deal with negativity? And I go, it's easy. I pre-program myself to shut the door on it. It's like, I don't know how to deal with it because I don't have to deal with it because when it comes, I shut the door. Whereas if you keep the door open, then it comes in and it comes in your head and it bothers you. And then you have to write me a letter. How do I deal with it? And then in thinking about it, I realized that's how I deal with it. It never gets, the odor never got. How do you get this odor out of your house? By not letting the skunk in the house. That's how. Right? So it's like, you see the skunk, close the door. You won't have a problem with the odor in the house. The odor will stay outside. It'll stay outside, but you burn incense inside and close the door. So when we're more self-caring, we just by default will protect ourselves from negativity. So when there's negativity coming or we get near it, we can kind of smell it. You ever allow someone to abuse you? You ever tolerate someone who's unhealthy and you associate with unhealthy people and it drags you down? You wouldn't do that because you're too sensitive to avoid the negative and keep the positive. So that's really, really important. And so that self-caring can prevent us from committing offenses, criticizing devotees, or being affected by those who criticize us. So someone's criticizing me, and so it's upsetting, except I close the door on it, so it doesn't bother me, because it doesn't smell, and it smells outside, I'm going to close the door, close the window. So inside, I'm fine. Even though it smells outside. How can you tolerate this smell? I don't smell it. I'm inside. So yeah, I wish it smelled better outside. I wish everyone was nice and they didn't criticize. But if I allow myself to get affected by it, it's going to be very harmful for me. And I want to protect myself from anything which is harmful. So I just close the door on it. And you say, but what if it gets in? All right, if it gets in somehow or other, I get it out as quickly as I can because I know it's harmful. We have this saying in America, when somebody does something really bad and you don't want to think about them, maybe Sydney, you know this better than I do. We say something like, bless his soul or something. It's kind of sarcastic, it's just like, you don't want to deal with them, bless their soul. That's just who they are. And they do these things and you don't want to say anything negative. So bless their soul. Isn't that kind of like saying that's just what they do? But it's not for me to get involved with him. I'm not going to talk about it. Yeah, I know he did that. Bless his soul is kind of like, I just closed the door on him. You say that in Europe, bless his soul, to indicate you're shutting the door on that person? Maybe not. Maybe it's an American thing. Maybe you should start saying it. Did you hear what this Prabhu said about you? And you're going, bless his soul. He's got, it's just who he is, he likes to, he said, that's what he does, it's like, I'm not going to, ruin my parade because he doesn't like me, It's kind of like that. So that's how self-care works. And that's why it's so important for our spiritual life, because then we can go forward. Bless their heart. Oh, bless their heart. Yeah. I'll bless their soul. That's even better. Or maybe bless their heart. Yeah. It's like kind of saying he's trying his best, but he's a mess, isn't it? Trying his best, but he's a mess. So like, bless his heart. That's all he can do is like criticize or fault find or like. So there's this attraction to tamagun. Some people were very attracted to tamagun. So that I'm bad, I'm useless, can't do anything right, unworthy. That's all very tamasic. And so if you find that within you, don't just think, well, it's how I am in conditioning and I'll just tolerate it. No, you should think this is tamasic. It's a Southern thing. Bless your heart, honey. Yeah. We should think it's a tamasic thing. It's not like, well, I'll just tolerate it, this and that. It's tamasic. To be attracted to criticism is tamasic. But what to speak of being attracted to criticizing yourself? That's even more so tamasic. Right? It's because it's self-destructive. Does that make sense? Yes? Good? Yeah. So my point is that this is not optional. This is how we have to be thinking and feeling. We have to take care of ourselves. We have to be compassionate upon ourselves. We have to be accepting, loving, kind, understanding, patient, etc. And if we are, Krishna consciousness will be very blissful and it'll be very easy. And if we're not, yeah, I have a PowerPoint. Hold on, I'll if I can find the PowerPoint, it has 2 doors on it. So we get a visual. Let me see if I can find it. Let's see. I can give you a visual. That would be good. Hold on. Not there. It's always good to have a visual, isn't it, to talk from? So this should be. Yeah, it should be here. We can find it. Oh no, where is it? I lost it. So confused. I was working on it. Give it one more chance. It disappeared. Anyway, it was a visual of 2 doors opening. I don't know where it went. Can't find it. Give me one more chance. Should be here, but maybe not. It's your lucky day, everyone. Getting previews of coming attractions. Okay. So now I'm going to share my PowerPoint with you. As if share screen. There it is. Share it. from current slide. There you go. Whoops. I'll read it. The practice of self-care involves opening the door of our lives to positive influences, people, thoughts, words, and actions, and closing the door to any of these that are negative, including unhealthy situations and people, as far as in our power. So there's your visual. Whatever's positive, open the door. It should be opened wider than that door. What's ever negative, just keep it closed. Now, ladies and gentlemen, sometimes that negative door has to open. You know why? Should I explain why it has to open? There's a reason. Hold on. Because sometimes the negative comes from within, right? And stop share. Okay. Sometimes the negative comes from within. So we have to open the door to get it out because it's coming not just externally, but it's coming from within us. So you open the door, get it out. So that's important. Hare Krishna. Wow. I'm so excited. Oh, I would love to read you what I just worked on today. It's so beautiful. Can I read you the compassion ones? You're going to love these. There's actually a recording of it, but I'll read it. Let me just find it. So beautiful. Actually made a PowerPoint. Let's see if I can find the PowerPoint. I'll show it to you. Self-care, self-acceptance, compassion. Yeah. Okay. I'm going to show this to you. It's your lucky day. I don't know what pious activities you have performed to deserve this, but somehow or other, you have done something to deserve this. So I have to go to the slideshow and make it bigger, right? Let's see. No, I'm trying to. This chat thing is up here on top. It's getting in the way of my, where I have to click to make this bigger. That's weird. Anyway, let's just, can you see it? You can see it. You're seeing the whole screen. Is there something on the bottom? Yeah, this. There we go. Self-acceptance and self-compassion affirmations. So this is self-compassion affirmations. Oh, this is a long one. This is a long one. You haven't seen, all right, we'll read this one. I am as compassionate to myself as I am to others. I speak to myself with compassion, empathy, and care. I focus on and engage my abilities rather than compare myself to others. I allow the good qualities of others to inspire me, not cause me to become envious. My present state of consciousness does not have to be an impediment to my Krishna consciousness. I plant the seeds of improvement in my heart and water them with kindness, compassion, and self-acceptance. I forgive myself for my mistakes. Others' false criticisms of me are their issues, not mine. I deal with my faults and weaknesses with understanding and compassion. I build boundaries to protect myself from giving so much to others that I neglect myself. I always expect Krishna's protection, kindness, and mercy. I always share my challenges, secrets, and darkness with close friends. I am soft and kind on myself when I fail to do or be my best. I humbly acknowledge and appreciate my good qualities. I am aware of my needs and fulfill them in ways that nourish me physically, emotionally, and spiritually. My worth to Krishna and my self-worth is measured by my sincerity, not by what I have achieved. I replenish myself as needed. I love myself too much to do anything detrimental to my well-being. I acknowledge that I am worthy of being loved by Krishna and by others. I acknowledge that Krishna loves me, wants me to go back to Godhead, and is waiting for me. Look at that picture, the road back to Godhead. I make peace with my bad qualities, failures, and deficiencies, recognizing it's normal to be normal. I improve what I can about myself and accept what I can't yet change. So that was self-compassion. That's a second set of self-compassion. I have more. So this is self-acceptance affirmations. There are less of these, but nonetheless beautiful. I am patient and kind to myself. Just as Prabhupada and Krishna accept me as I am, I accept myself as I am. I accept my flaws as a natural part of my conditioned nature and do not condemn myself for not being better. I'm satisfied with who I am and don't need validation from others. I humbly acknowledge and appreciate my good qualities and accomplishments. I only compete with myself, not others, to be better. I accept where others are at and appreciate their efforts. In so doing, I enhance my own self-acceptance. I love myself too much to do anything detrimental to my well-being. I give the same love and acceptance to myself that Krishna gives to me. I am a work in progress. I am happy to be me while I work on becoming better. I am real about who I am and where I am at and accept myself without judgment. There you go. Hare Krishna. You feel all warm and fuzzy now? Yeah. So this is how I believe we should always be, in that state of consciousness. And if you're not in that state of consciousness, if you believe you don't deserve to be that way, if you believe you deserve to suffer, then I could say in one sense, you just have to believe what's in our books, because this is what our books say, ultimately. And if you're reading our books in a way that you feel the opposite of this, then it's planting the seed in the dirty soil. Hare Krishna. So I'm going to stop. We never even got to start. So, bless your heart, everyone, despite your fallen nature. Okay, so if you want to ask questions, if not, we can go to today's class topic. Now that we're all like blissed out on self-love. Now that we all like, now that we're all not going to like hate ourselves, to at least for the next few minutes, right? You know, when you do something you shouldn't do, or you tell yourself you're not going to do it, but you do it, and you think, "What's wrong with me?" You know, the answer to that question is, if you ever ask that question, you know the answer is, what's wrong with you? What's wrong with you is you are normal. That's what's wrong with you. So if you're going to like hate yourself for being normal, then you're going to have a difficult life. Of course, we're trying to become transcendental, transnormal. Well, that's probably doesn't sound right. It sounds like transgender. We're trying to become transcendentally normal. It's a different kind of normal. But until we are transcendentally normal, our failings are normal. So that's a compassionate way of looking at yourself. It's like when I fail at something, then we think, well, I should probably hang myself now because that would be good. The world doesn't need me anymore. Or I should at least arrange to beat myself up because I deserve to suffer for what I've done, right? But that's not Krishna consciousness. And certainly that's not going to help you at all. I can guarantee it. Yeah. So, Hari Bhakti, I will now reveal to you your belief. Hari Bhakti believes, unless I suffer, I won't get better. That's some kind of Indian conditioning from Noida or something. I don't know. But Hari Bhakti, I'm happy to announce to you that according to all data, it's actually the opposite. Now, and it's easy to answer this, right? Okay. Let's say I actually love myself, right? And so as a consequence of loving myself, when I make a mistake, I'm kind and understanding. Go, yeah, that wasn't good, but you're normal, and keep trying and you'll do better. That's a kind and compassionate way to deal with it. And if you actually love yourself, do you think you would ever allow yourself to be apathetic? Never. You never would. It's when you don't like yourself, you give up and say, what's the use? I'm not worth it. Then you become apathetic. Does that make sense, Hari Bhakti? And when you actually care for yourself, that's when you don't become apathetic. So just because you're kind on yourself and understanding doesn't mean you're not going to try. It's when you don't really have self-love, that's when you give up. Because lack of self-love is based on apathy. I don't care. What does it matter? What's the use? And then you have this perfectionism. Well, I can't excel. So why do anything? I can go to the gym, but I still, I'm never going to look like Hercules. So I'll just not go to the gym at all. What's the point? But if you have self-love, you'll never think that way. You wouldn't treat yourself that way. So with self-love, you always want to improve. And if you love your guru, you always want to improve for your guru. So it's when you feel like I'm not worth it, I don't care, that's when you give up. And so then when I'm not worth it, I don't care, then you're pounding yourself into the pavement thinking that's going to inspire you when it's all tamasic. And tamagun does not. If tamagun inspires you, you have a problem. That's all I can say. If sattvagun doesn't inspire you, you're in the wrong movement. You should become a Shiva Bhakta or something. So, but a lot of times, we have this tamasic psychology, and it supposedly inspires us. That's not healthy. I'm going to beat myself up. If I become suicidal, that will definitely motivate me. This world is so bad. I'm just going to hate everyone and hate everything. I'm just going to curse everyone and everything. That should motivate me. No, that's not exactly the way it works. You can understand it's bad. But if your feeling is to condemn everyone, it's a repulsion, and repulsion is not healthy, right? Krishna says, don't be repulsed. Does that make sense? Hari Bhakti? Yeah. So don't ever think that self-love will always push you forward. Because you love yourself, you want to be better. You want to be Krishna conscious. But because you love yourself, you'll be kind on yourself, and you'll acknowledge your human nature, that you do make mistakes. And so that kindness will put you in a very healthy position to move forward. Whereas if you beat yourself up too much, you could beat yourself up to the point where you feel like, why try? What's the point? So you want to avoid that. And now you should all drink water because we're talking about self-care. So drink some water. I made all the devotees in China drink water during the class. I thought, well, what could be better than do self-care during a self-care class? This is mineral water. It tastes really bad. So I'm doing high self-care here. It even smells bad. Nishta Bhakti. Another Indian echoing what Hari Bhakti said. The Bhakti brother and sister, they kind of come out of the same mold. And pretty soon Abhinav is going to say the same thing. But you have to hate yourself to be motivated. You have to feel like you're imperfect. The shastra, Nishta Bhakti, the shastra says, Bhaktivinoda Thakur says, you should feel remorseful. And remorseful means I want to correct myself. Remorse is a positive thing. Guilt, if you have too much guilt, it's going to be negative. But remorse is guilt with positivity, that I am remorseful that I did this. I want to learn from it and improve. Like in business, right? In business, you make so many decisions. Some decisions are bad, and you evaluate those decisions. And from that, you think, okay, what do we do now? We made a bad decision. How do we correct it? I took a left turn here. How do I get back? It's like that. Okay, here's the data, just so you know. Hari Bhakti, Abhinav, Nishta Bhakti, maybe Kavita. Kavita's been out of India a while, so maybe she's been deprogrammed. So, but maybe not. So, what the data says, the studies of psychology, it says negativity can be a temporary motivator, not a permanent motivator. So it can, I'm so bad, I have to correct this. It could push you forward, but in the long run, it can't maintain it because it's not healthy. So let me put it another way. You're saying a negative attitude can create positive results. Okay, let's do an experiment, Nishta Bhakti. For 1 week, I want you to be negative with everyone in your house and see how that works out. I just want you to be negative with tell them they're stupid, useless, imperfect, and, good for nothing. Tell them that all the time. Tell that to your husband. Tell that to yourself. See what happens. No, I don't. That's not an order. Don't do it. But you could imagine if you did, what would happen, right? You would create hell in your house, right? And so if they make a mistake, instead tell them, say, okay, that's just normal. You're human. We all make mistakes. No problem. Let's fix it. Deal with yourself and them that way. What do you think is going to happen? Much better atmosphere, right? Okay, so this is very, very simple. We all know this. This beyond any question of a doubt. We know this to be true, right? If we deal with love and tolerance and understanding, empathy, it's always going to inspire people. We know that. It's a fact. Why would we then turn that idea? Why wouldn't we turn that idea to ourselves, but instead turn the opposite idea to ourselves, knowing that that wouldn't work with anybody, but we think it's going to work with us? Isn't that weird? I think that's like insane, actually. That's like almost a prerequisite for entering a mental hospital. The thing you in dealing with other people, what works, and you do the opposite thing to yourself. That means something got in there, some seed got put in there that like you deserve to suffer. You're not, you understand. I think you can understand, right? I studied psychology and self-development a lot, and I can give you the essence in 30 seconds. The essence is stuff got in there that's not helpful, and you got to pull it out and put in stuff that's helpful. Well, that was like 8 seconds. That's it. After reading all the books and all the seminars, that's basically what you learn. Now there's work to do, but stuff got in you, and any stuff that got in you that's good, keep it. And any stuff that got in you that's not helping you, you have to take it out and replace it with what will help you. So we all have bad stuff and good stuff, right? I hope you have good stuff in there also. I'm assuming. And some bad stuff got in there. And as we said, and some good stuff got in there, but we turned it, you know. It was like we already had a rotten apple in our heart. And so a good apple got in and then we turned it rotten. So that could also happen. All right. Let's take out 1 minute right now. I just want you, allow yourself to feel, to just meditate on this idea. Maybe no one in the world loves you, but Krishna does. Just go with that idea and go with that feeling just for a moment, that the Supreme Personality of Godhead, the all attractive Supreme Lord, he actually loves me. Oh my God, that's like amazing. Isn't it? Just feel it. That's like, wow, what more could you ask than that, right? And if any of you are thinking, yeah, I don't know about that. Next time I see you, I'm going to beat you up. Don't ever think like that. Krishna is giving you his love. If you tell someone you love them and they say, I don't know about that, how do they feel? How do you feel? I love you, I love you, I love you, Mahatma Prabhu, I love you. Yeah, I don't know. That makes you feel great, right? But Krishna is saying, I love you, and we're saying, I don't think so. Or, like, you picked the wrong person. Like, I'm not lovable. You made a mistake. Don't think that way. That's all material conditioning. That's all it is. Don't let your material conditioning influence what Krishna is giving you. It's really sad. Okay. Now we have another Indian. Wow, we're getting attacked by Indians here. Abhinav's next up. Bhakti Siddhanta said, beat your head 100 times. Yeah. Okay. I have to deprogram all the Indians now. It's a loving tap, Abhinav. It's not to destroy you, but he's saying this to help you because the mind is the enemy. So he's saying, if your mind is attacking you, if your mind's going to take you away from Krishna, kill it. That would be loving. Like a snake's coming. If you love yourself, kill it. Otherwise, it'll kill you. So kill the thing that's going to destroy you. And how? What size broomstick you use and how hard you hit, that's another thing. But sometimes it's said that the words of the guru, the tongue of the guru is like a sword. It's like poison, but his heart is like sugar. And the tongue of a cheater, his tongue is like sugar and his heart is like poison. So all the instructions we get, they're like sugar, but they may come out looking like poison because you need a big enough knife to cut into that, get in that cancerous anartha to pull it out. Your parents take you to the hospital, you're going to have an operation. Oh, my parents don't love me. They're letting the doctor, operate on me. No, that's why they love you. That's why he's operating. So, and Nirali, what do you say? But if we're more sincere, wouldn't we have more success in bhakti, sell more books, make more devotees? Yes and no. The result is up to Krishna. We can't control that. One devotee wasn't having success and he was really frustrated. And he was thinking like you're thinking, Nirali, and Prabhupada, he didn't go there. He said, it's nothing about external. It's all about you do your bhakti properly. That's all. That's all you have to worry about. Okay, so now we're going to take, Nirali, we're going to take your statement to 1960, 1959 in India and Prabhupada. Well, according to this statement, we would have to say Prabhupada was not very sincere because things weren't working out. But that was all Krishna's arrangement. Because he wanted to make sure Prabhupada would come to America. But then the first year in America, we could say, well, maybe Prabhupada wasn't very sincere because, he didn't have anything. Didn't even have a temple, a few ragtag hippies. It doesn't look like it's promising. So in Krishna's time, according to Krishna's desire, all we have to do is be sincere, try our best. As Prabhupada said, strain our brains how to spread Krishna consciousness, and then let Krishna do everything. Whatever he does, we'll accept. Right? What did Prabhupada say? Write, publish books. Not to become famous author, but for your own purification. So that's the idea. Why does Krishna love us? Because he's your father. We have this this Judeo-Christian thing, especially the Christian thing, like God likes you if you go to the right church, and if you go to the wrong church, you go to hell forever. So you get this idea in your head, of this old man, long hair, long gray hair, long beard, sitting on a big cement throne, throwing lightning bolts at everyone. So when people say, I don't believe in God, and I go, well, I don't believe in that God, that's for sure. The God that you're thinking of that you don't believe on, the one that's throwing lightning bolts, I don't believe in that one either. So there, we're even on that one. Right? That's a good line when people say that. You mean the God that, causing everyone to suffer and out lightning bolts, and I say, yeah, and sending people to hell forever. Yeah, I don't believe in that one either. There is a different God, or at least a different conception. So when we have these conceptions, the gods like that, or we have these conceptions of guilt that we deserve to suffer, then we'll ask the question, why would Krishna love us? Because we're the ones who ran away from him. So why would you love someone who ran away from you? Because you're God and you're not ordinary person. That's why. So if you are going to look at Krishna like he's like you, then you're going to ask the question, why would he love me? Because if you were him, you wouldn't love you, because you know what a mess you are, right? Does that make sense? Like, well, if I were God, I wouldn't love me, because I just, I chant my rounds, but I think about when I can not chant my rounds. Like, why would he care about me? Because he's not you. He doesn't think like you. That's why. Does that make sense? Yeah. That same question is asked often. Why did Mahaprabhu give his mercy to the most fallen? And he gave such high mercy. Why did he do that? And you know what the answer is? Because he wanted to. He's God. Let him do it. He can do whatever he wants. It's not our position to judge. Why did he do that? Give mercy to all these Jugais and Madhais. He shouldn't have done that. Look at all these crazy people in ISKCON. I wish he wasn't so merciful. You can't, do you ever think like that? I wish he wasn't so merciful. Like, we could kick a few people out of ISKCON. He's like way too merciful, So that's the answer. Why did he do it? Because he did, because he could, because he's all loving. He wants all conditioned souls to go back to him. That's why. You don't doubt his heart. The other answer is Krishna is love. Like we say, God is love. That's what he is. So could Krishna not love you? Okay, here's another way of looking at this. Who asked that question? Motorola Edge 20 Lite asked that question. Never heard of an initiated name like that before. Who is your guru? Oh, you're a disciple of Motorola Das. Motorola Maharaj, yeah. Okay. In case, in case you don't know, sometimes your name comes out as your phone. So when you can change your name, where it says name, I think you can change it now. If you go to somewhere, rename. If you click on the three dots, it'll say rename. You can change your name to another name, unless you like that name. So, Anuratas. Oh, Anurata. He's impersonating a phone. Okay. So, why does Krishna love us? Think of this. Think of this. Krishna, in your pure state, what happens in your pure state? There's just love. That's your pure state, right? Krishna, everything Krishna does is love, right? When he kills the demons, we say that's because he loves them and he liberates them. Look at Putana. She became Krishna's mother. Sishupal, like they got position in the spiritual world. Like Krishna's love, everything he does is love, right? Tough love sometimes, but love nevertheless. Okay. So the answer to your question is Krishna cannot not love. He doesn't, like we know how not to love, but he doesn't. So even when it looks like he's not loving, he is, because he doesn't know how not to love. So we're asking this question because we know how not to love. So like, why would Krishna love? Because I wouldn't love all these people. Yeah, well, it's a good thing you're not God. And it's a good thing he is. So he loves, right? He loves. Because that's what he does. He doesn't know how not to. So if you have a doubt that Krishna loves you, just try to understand there's no way he cannot not love you. He doesn't know how to do that. It's not part of who he is. Now, if you want to run away from him and suffer, he can look like he doesn't love you. But that's not the case. Okay. Damayanti says, write for Krishna's children, parents, and teachers, a pamphlet with more community skills. Right? Oh my God. I need ChatGPT to take this lecture and write an article. Can it do it? Chaitanya Dasi, can you try that? Do you know how to use ChatGPT? You give Abhinav, you know how to use it? Anybody know how to use it? Anandita, you know how to use it? Yeah? Can you see if you can take this lecture and say, write an article from it and see what happens? That would be amazing. Because if it works, we can do it with other lectures. And then all of a sudden I'll have a book and I didn't even have to write it. Wow, amazing. Of course, Anandita, you'll have to edit it to make it make sense. Okay. Sounds fun, yeah. All right, Karina, you know how to do it? You guys could do it together, take different lectures, but see. Yeah. And then with ChatGPT, I guess you could, it's going to turn it all into text and edit it. And wow, we have a whole book. That would be amazing. They go, Mahatma Prabhu, how did you write all these books? I go, I didn't. They're all written by ChatGPT. I'm just getting the credit. Okay. Hare Krishna. So did it answer your question, Anuradha? If you have, this is the perfect answer, isn't it? Don't you think it's the perfect answer? How could Krishna love me? Because he doesn't know how not to. What an answer. You like that answer? I like it. I think it's good. But I'm not lovable. He doesn't care. Krishna doesn't know how to not love. Let's put me in there. Okay. Let's all say that. All right. I'm going to put it in the chat and we can all chat it together. There's a chat. I'm going to write it down. Krishna doesn't know how not to love me. You see that in the chat? Can we all say it together? Just make sure you can say it with me. Just make sure you're muted. Krishna doesn't know how not to love me. Krishna no sé cuando. Well, why did you say Gurpreet? Can you say it in Spanish? Is anyone translating in Spanish?
No, no one is translating, but I can say it in Spanish. Krishna no sabe cómo no amarnos.
All right, beautiful. Put that on my Facebook and Instagram in Spanish. What does he see in us so we can be worth of love? Nothing. That you don't qualify for him to love you. You just exist as his son or daughter. Oh, Anuradha is translating. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Good question. What does Krishna see in us? Okay. What's that song, Sydney? What's the name of it? Not because of who we are. What's the name of that song? Not because of who I am. Not because of what you did. Not because of what I did, but because of who you are. Not because of who I am, but because of what you did. There's a song like that. That's the answer to your question. Going to put it in the chat. Casting crowns. Who am I? Casting crowns. There's the answer to your question, Anuradha. You go after class. You go Google "Who Am I" by Casting Crowns, and you listen to the chorus, and this is what the chorus says. Something like that. Not because Krishna no sabe como no amarme. It's not possible. Yeah. So the verse is, he's talking about how God loves us. And then he says, not because of who I am, but because of what you've done. Not because of what I've done, but because of who you are. There's your answer. Why does Krishna love me? Not because of you, but because of he's giving his mercy. Not because of what you've done, not because of who you are, but because of who he is and what he's done. Because he's love. So all you Asians, can you get that through your head? I know you were trained to like you only loved if you got straight A's. And if you didn't, you went to bed without dinner for the next month. So that's going to be hard for you, right? Because you always had to earn love, isn't it? Yeah. If you're in this paradigm, we have to earn love, then you're scratching your head thinking, why did Krishna love me? I didn't do anything. Again, material conditioning, just getting in the way of Krishna's loving you. And you're like, I don't think so. I didn't do anything. How could he love me? Yeah. Let's just watch a movie and forget it, you know. One of my favorite songs. Yeah, it's a beautiful song. Yeah, you should all listen to it. We'll do a Krishna conscious version about Lord Chaitanya. So the song is so beautiful because he's saying, you know, I'm insignificant and God like cares about me. He knows me and he's giving me mercy. Although I like, what am I to him? I'm nothing. That's the song, right? Something like that. Isn't it, Sydney? Like I'm nothing to God. And so like, you know, why? There it is. The theme song of our self-care retreat. Yeah, that's a beautiful idea, isn't it? You like that? You don't have to do anything. So all of you who are perfectionists and people pleasers and your parents like never smiled at you if you didn't do something phenomenal. If you didn't win a gold medal, you didn't get a smile. You got to clean that stuff out because that's not how Krishna operates. And if you think he operates like your parents, if your parents operated that way, you got the wrong, it's the wrong idea. Is that clear? Nishta, Prema Bhakti. Every time I see that name, I want to change it to Prema Bhakti. I like Nishta is okay, but that's just one level, Nishta means steady, but I like Prema better. She likes it also. Prema Nishta Bhakti, that way when you get to Prema, you stay there. Prema Nishta Bhakti means one who will always be on the level of Prema. Rescue by Lauren Dangle has helped me so much. Okay, so if you want to, because after class, these links are going to merge into Brahman. So if you want to copy them, you can copy them for later use. What is it? Diagonal? All right, I'm going to copy that. Music is very powerful. Now I have a question. Have I sufficiently brainwashed all of you, or you need more brainwashing? I think you need more. It's getting there, right? You need more. That's why you need to come to the self-care workshop, because we need more. It's going to take more time to brainwash you, right? Yes? Okay. Is it then correct to say that we practice devotional service not so that Krishna will love us, but so that we can become aware of our love for him? Yeah, and we develop our love for him. Yeah, he already loves us. Perfect. Yes, exactly. Exactamente. People, some devotees say, like, this psychology stuff, it's all bogus. I'm like, it's not. It's all about our conditioning. And look at how this conditioning can get in the way of our Krishna consciousness. And, don't think it's just going to go away. You could chant for 20 years and still think Krishna doesn't love you, right? And that's an insult to him. Like, okay, I dare you, go to the deities tomorrow and say, I don't think you love me. You want to do that? You think that'd be a good idea? Think that's devotional? You think that'll help you? And have an argument. Why don't you love me? You'll never love me. I know, So, yeah, that's why when people say psychology is all bogus, we have a psychology, so you can't deny it. And if that psychology is unhealthy, and it becomes an anartha, we have to reevaluate it, reprogram it, work it, and then we can accept the philosophy as it is. And so how unfortunate it is if we can't accept the philosophy as it is, because it bounces into some conditioned thinking and it comes back in a different way than it came in. And then we have a perverted idea of what Krishna said. That's so unfortunate, isn't it? And when I see it, I think if our movement is going to succeed, we have to be able to help devotees get the philosophy in and then live it the way it's supposed to be, the way it comes in. Like, like we're talking about, you see this phenomena. Some devotee does something great. And, so what does our philosophy say? Devotees are very happy when they see another person succeeding. You find this in Chaitanya Charitamrita. When a devotee is advancing, everybody is blessing and everybody's happy. But sometimes we see when a devotee is successful, he gets criticized by everybody. He's just this. It's like, what's happening? That's not our philosophy. Our philosophy is going in and it's hitting this dirty water and it's coming out like, in ways it's not meant to. That's really unfortunate. And how will our movement succeed if that's happening? That's going to be a problem. You agree? You better agree. You have to agree. No, you don't have to agree. If you have another way of looking at it, put it in the chat. We'll discuss it. But this is a concern for me, that Prabhupada has given us something so beautiful, but it gets dropped in dirty water. You know, this pure nectar gets dropped in dirty water, and then it turns into something that he didn't actually give us, sometimes in the name of Krishna consciousness. So that's unfortunate, isn't it? And if you've learned anything from this lecture, then you can, also, I think, use it to help other devotees. But Anandita, definitely, I want to read this lecture. I don't even know what I said. It's just Krishna speaking through me. There's a verse Lord Shiva said, he said, I'm not sure that Veda Vyas actually understands the Bhagavatam, even though he spoke it. You know that verse? Lord Shiva said, I know the Bhagavatam, Sukadev Goswami knows the Bhagavatam. I'm not sure. Vyas might know it, he may not, I'm not sure. Like, how did he speak it if he didn't know it? Because sometimes it just comes through you. Ramananda Roy was speaking to Mahaprabhu, and Ramananda Roy said, you're actually speaking through me. I don't know what I'm saying. My tongue is like a stringed instrument. You're playing it. So I would like to read this lecture. I could use some points for the course. Anyway, this is just a sample, a little sample of what we're going to discuss, but you can see why I'm so excited. It's just like clean up the mess so that what comes in purely can be digested purely and go out purely. We'll all be very happy and the movement will be very successful. Hare Krishna. So I don't know where Gormani is. Maybe she's having trouble getting in. Is that possible? I have to check my phone. See if Google sent me something or other.